What do you think is the biggest misconception leadership has about social's impact on business outcomes? And we'll kick it over to Kelsey first.
That it doesn't. It's probably the biggest misconception. And some of that comes down to, I think attributions can be really tough in this space, especially when we're talking about creator programs or we're talking about social commerce. Those are two hot topics that I've been looking at and tracking recently. And when you think about creators, I was talking to one marketer. It's a big global QSR brand, and they were saying that they started pulling, their influencer programs into their MMM, but they were realizing it's actually not giving us the full picture of what's going on because, if you don't have paid media attached to the creator program, it's not being amplified. You're just looking at organic. It's not an apples to apples comparison to other media channels and markets. So I think that's one of those challenges. You just can't necessarily compare the impact in the same way as other media channels. And then I think on the commerce side, I'm in the middle of a report right now on this. And, one of the findings that we're having here is a lot of times the transaction is happening directly in the social media app, but the impact that social media is having on those purchase decisions that happen elsewhere is huge. I mean, I have some data. We looked at shopping behaviors around the holiday season, and we were asking, these shoppers, which channels will most likely influence your purchase decisions. And 43% of U.S. online adults, this is 34 and under, said the social media posts from brands would most likely influence those shopping decisions. And another 25% said the same of social media posts from influencers. And where that gets interesting is that both of those two channels ranked higher than TV, online video, magazines, podcasts, all of these other channels. So that's all to say that I think social media just has this outsized impact on decisions that isn't always as directly trackable as we like it to be.
Yeah. And I'll say one really quick thing here too is attribution is something that our social team recently kind of tackled late last year and early this year. But I will say, if you're not talking to your marketing analytics team, please start talking to them because they can help you so much. And even just visualizing data and helping just tell that full picture that you might not be able to tell on your own. But yeah, Tatiana and Brie, any other thoughts here?
Yeah, I think pre-pandemic, the misconception was that social teams were just here to be fun. They were the fun team in the organization. We just created content on our phones and that was that. And then the pandemic hit and business owners and the C-suite really realized that social media was the primary way to reach your audiences in real time. And they really started to think of social marketing as a true function of growing the business. And so I think the number one misconception that I see is that people think that just because they have their own social media account, they know what it takes to run social for a brand. How many people say, oh, I can run social, just because they have an Instagram account? It's not true. Understanding what it takes to run for a brand is very different. You have to think about analysis, research, insights, approvals, other stakeholders. There's so much sentiment from audiences and audience behaviors that it really is part art and part science. It takes a deep level of intuition and understanding consumer behaviors as well as creativity to do what we do.
Yeah, and sorry, did I cut you off?
Oh no, I was gonna say anything quickly to add here before we keep going.
Yeah, just really quickly, just piggybacking off of that, I think the misconception is that social is still just a nice to have. I talk to potential clients all the time that, they're just yeah, we just need to post maybe once a month. Just toss it in there, toss it into the scope of work. But social requires an in-depth amount of strategy, and to Tatiana's point, strategy, creativity, science, you really have to be able to commit to it. And it is a serious and full-time job, right? I'm preaching to the choir, but I think for leadership teams and brands that aren't really taking social seriously at this point, Tatiana's right. Pre-pandemic, things looked a lot different, but we are social animals and we're looking for connection and community, and social is the way to do that.